And the Nigerian equities markets witnessed profit-taking activities, particularly Oando, MTNN and Transcorp. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Exchange lifted its suspension on the trading in Oando securities following the company's compliance with financial disclosure requirements. Muktar Mohammed, analyst at Assar Investments, joins me to gauge investor sentiment on Oando. Muktar, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you on the show with us. Well, we finally have the numbers out. Good to have you here to help us unpack the numbers. 2 trillion in revenue, but profit after tax came in significantly lower at 62.6 billion. I mean, what do the numbers tell you?
Well, the numbers are interesting. And again, if you look deep into that, let's look at the Oando story first before we begin to look at the numbers. And I think the story is an interesting story. It's an ongoing story that have to do with the company that was just like a joint venture partner of just 20% to a joint venture partner of controlling major stake of 40%. When you look at Oando, you're looking at a company these days that is into about upstream side of the oil economy, power also is included, clean energy is included, and also a trading company. So when you look at this, what really Oando of the future and the Oando of the now, then you begin to look at the Oando of the now, you begin to look at the result. Yes, when you look at their results, like I say, 2 trillion, but microeconomic headwind, cost of sale really hits deep into that. But again, when you look at the full year end in 2023 compared to the half year end in 2024, you saw the wide difference in terms of profitability. And this is largely driven by the asset they just acquired. And they boost that asset within a month by 36%. And so that is huge. Within a month, you boost an asset of that like 36%. And you know that this asset was an asset that was abandoned before now. So kickstarting it and be able to get that in a month to get it to 36%. That tells you what the future holds for Oando. But again, you saw profit taking, you saw investor sentiment, which is very, very expected, especially when corporate governance. But again, you have to give it to them. Now, corporate governance seems to be, because they've told, when they were suspended, they told us their suspension was due to the acquisition. The result will be released on Friday, and they kept to that word. So,
I remember you were a little bit skeptical too, and as whether that result investors also.
But that result came in on Friday as planned, and investors were taken aback because we expect that to drag on. So that tells you that there's a new spirit in Oando to keep up to corporate governance.
Going forward, you wouldn't be expecting those sort of delays from the past.
And because they're not a global player, so they are one of the strongest indigenous oil company that is listed in the exchange. Then when you look at the price in terms of profit taking, it's interesting that when you look at the oil sector itself, you look at those companies that are listed there. You look at Arada, you look at Seplat, you look at Corn Oil, you look at Total, you look at, let's even leave Eternal out of it now. But when you look at those major players, you realize that Oando seems to be the cheapest thus far because of, in terms of what they are doing, what those are doing, the peers that they are with. So it gives investor, when it goes down, it gives a lot of designing investor an opportunity to begin to get
a good re-entry
stock going forward. For me, I think it's an interesting story. Like I said, we keep watching the story. When you, like I said, you invest in Oando, you're investing in four different companies, because again, the Okpola power plant, which is the public-private partnership, gives up the national grid about 300 megawatts of electricity added to the national grid. And going forward, they are planning to add about 180 megawatts in the first quarter of 2025. So a lot of things are happening. And when you look at that number, the improvement in terms of about 36% in a month, it has to do with the relationship with the host community. They seem to have been able to get into the host community, knowing that they're a Nigerian company, they know what the host community needs, and they've been able to provide power for some of this host community, and they're trying to build on that to get infrastructure and everything. We look at the challenge of oil theft, insecurity, within a month what they are achieving. I think it calls for kudos to the management.
I mean, obviously, interesting things ahead for this company. It's, I mean, going forward, it's targeting 100,000 barrels per day post acquisition of the Nigerian Ajib oil company. But has the market gotten a sense of what, forward guidance in terms of future earnings? Next quarter's full year?
I think the market will not get away of that, because again, when we were just looking at the numbers, we are not looking at the prospects. And I think that will come with the fact behind the figure, which I expect the company to come up and tell us what the new Oando will look like. because now what we're having is the Oando based on the result, and that sentiment of that result is what investors are looking at. So they are not looking at these details of this 100,000 barrel, and so those are facts behind the figure that will come out. But sometime again, they've given us a 6 months report, so half year. So hopefully, by the 9-month report, they might begin to add up all this, and investors will begin to look at the numbers.
Get a clearer picture of revenue. I mean, we have about 2 minutes left or so for the rest of the market. So far, the NGX has returned somewhere around 30%, and it's been there for back and forth for a while. But talk to us, where elsewhere are investors looking, bargain hunting and looking for value? And
that's the interesting thing about it. The market has thus far done about 29% in terms of improving the year or share index, which is not up to inflation. And when you look at it, like the company we just said now, it has done about 560% in terms of Oando has done about 576% in terms of company appreciation, which gives you a little what you think is happening in the market. Thus far, why most investors should drag towards that stock. Now, according to what's happening in the market, Esther, this is the period. It's always like that in the month of November and going towards December.
Going to the holiday season.
We always see those back and forth. Remember, we've done the 9 months result. Everybody now knows. So most investors are now looking at good entry point, good exit point in anticipation of the year end. Remember that over 80% of the companies that are listed in the exchange have their year end in December. And so you begin to factor in those dividend payout, which always excite Nigerian investors. And also you begin to factor in other, whether it's a good entry price by what they were before now, where they were at the beginning of the year, when this result has come in. So you continue to see that back and forth. But it's an interesting time to be in the stock market. Like I said, it seems to be the only economic barometer that is ticking at the moment in terms of investors. Seems to be smiling when you look at a lot of equities are not where they were when they started the year.
Absolutely, and that's quite interesting. 20 seconds left. I mean, what are your stocks, your top stock picks for this week?
Of course, Oando is there, MTN is there, the banking sector is there, and I think nobody seems to talk about it, that there are no more a tier 1 bank, a tier 2 bank any longer. They are moving towards a tier 1 bank, that is Fidelity Bank is there. So for the brewery sector also, you could see that they are coming back to profitability, but the FX challenge is still there. Hopefully by the first quarter of next year, we could see stability there. So, but the thing about the whole thing is that at this moment, investors have to think long term to get the value.
All right, Muktar, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for talking to us today. Appreciate your time. Muktar Mohammed, analyst at Assar Investments.